Hey, Jamie. We're gonna get you on.
No, don't.
You're not on yet.
Yeah, she'll you know where the community store is?
Oh, you have to do it that way? Oh, the camera facing. Oh.
That's here.
Yeah.
I just want to walk by. It's off now?
Is that really recording now?
Yeah.
People can like look at that. Who's looking at it?
Whoever I sent the email to. Hi, folks.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how should I?
Enjoy!
Oh, just right in the area.
Right here.
Thank you.
It's my good angle. Check this out.
Oh,
Oh,
just
it's like a
talk to
wide
the class.
angle.
Just talk to the class. Move it in front. Sure.
Oh, hey, good.
Hey, did you take that? They're right behind you. The
You stay in front. It's up to you.
you just take
Good catch.
Okay.
So you don't want no horse yet? No, good.
No. I have two little boys.
You can see the other shot.
I had a bad experience on a horse. When I was actually at home, first time I'd ever been on my friend's birthday party. It was feeding time. Yeah, that was wrong, number one. Number two, this pony was actually Satan in disguise. So they turned me on bareback as he was, and then he took off heading for the stall because it was feeding time, and I'm bump, and then flying off.
I know. There was a horse farm just next to
There's
my
little
parents'
like agenda things if you guys need right behind you on that the edge of that table there.
Yeah.
So when I went
Good, how are you?
Yeah,
you know, I will take it.
yeah.
All right, we'll give people a couple more minutes and we'll get started.
I'm not riding again.
I'll keep it to an hour or under. Yeah.
No, it's just early.
I like riding, but for whatever reason,
I parked in the 1 hour section.
You'll be fine.
up against the tree, trying to-
No, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
I'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah. They're usually pretty lenient unless you're,
That is fine.
no, you'll be fine.
Is that to tell?
Oh, yeah. If I leave it there all day, that's when they start to go after you, but.
Don't you know who you are?
Cummings doesn't care, like, in the old building, I got the boot put on. Oh, right.
Really?
And I caught the tow truck driver and he was like, well, I can tow it and you can pay me $75, or I can not tow it and you can pay me $75. So I was like, how about I don't pay you $75? He's like, not an option. So I had to pay to have it taken on.
Oh, wow. We were down in Atlanta for a family reunion and we went out to, my sister-in-law lived in the downtown, it was a place called Lumber Lounge. It was upscale nightclub with all kinds of brick furniture and everything.
Yeah.
And we went out there and it was moving. Not only that, it was freezing because we were there on Christmas break.
No.
And we were out there, and we did not get anywhere. We had to wait for the bus. And then we had to call the parking lot Atlanta. Then came at 4 o'clock.
Nuts. All right, I think we'll get started. So this is the first time teaching this one for me. We kind of had a lot of people asking just different things about networking and so forth. So figured we'd put together a class and put it out there. So for those who don't know me, I'm Sarah MacBurnie, Keller Williams Realty, and I'd say that a lot of my business is generated by networking. Who's doing networking now? What are you doing?
Well, I met with a former manager where I used to work. We had coffee and there's a chance to help grow his business and he knows what I do. So I said, hey, anyone, I want sellers. So just, reach out to me and I'll work with them.
Cool. Robin.
Chamber of Commerce.
Nice. Right, you go to the events and stuff, or?
I do, yeah. I do.
Yeah, Beverly Chamber, go to all the events, Beverly Kiwanis, go to the events, different committees, different networking.
How about you, Sarah?
Mine's very passive, networking at Cub Scout meetings, Boy Scout meetings, and all different parent groups.
Perfect.
But it's very passive.
Hi, how are you? You get, Robin. Thank you. Great, so we're just talking about,
Sorry, I'm late.
it's okay. Who's networking and what they're doing. Yes.
The Rotary Club?
Yes. Yeah, Chris and I saw each other at Rotary today. Yeah, so I think sometimes people get pigeonholed into thinking networking is one particular activity. It could be networking with one person, all the way up through networking with a very large organization. So the one thing that I would say is I think you need to find what works for you. So for me, I'm a member of the Beverly Rotary Club, Beverly Business Networking International, BNI. I do a lot of, and we'll kind of get into this, but very like niche networking, and I'll speak to you about that in the next section. But then separately, constantly allowing myself the opportunity to be taken out to lunch or taken out to coffee or ask the people out to lunch or ask the people out to coffee or drinks or, you figure we all need to have breakfast, we all need to have lunch, and so that's 10 unique opportunities in the business week for you to put yourself out there, for a potential networking opportunity. So I definitely think you really have to find what works for you. It's very easy to pay the fee and belong to the chamber, but then it's whether or not you actually take that next step and you're proactive with it and what you do with it if you're gonna, reap the benefits of being around these people. And I'd say, I was definitely slow to start in the networking realm, and then it's just become such a part of like my life and my business that now it's very easy, it's very intuitive, it's kind of what I do, and it's been a good lead generation tool, definitely. Maybe not as time effective as cold calling, but that sort of like fits my personality type, and so that's what I use as the.
You think it's not as time effective as cold calling?
Well, I think that you could like statistically spend less time and potentially get more leads cold calling, but my
Maybe the other way
approach,
around.
no, my approach has been more like the relationship building, being in the community. I kind of get my philanthropy in there with Rotary, my community service in there with Rotary. So it's like I'm sort of tapping into, multiple pieces of my life at the same time, which also takes the life of networking and, can eventually generate some business. So it may not be the most time effective, but great way to meet people, great way to meet vendors, build your sphere. So, okay, so we tapped on a couple of venues, the larger organizations, Kiwanis, Rotary, Chamber of Commerce. There are even some smaller networking groups popping up, like one in Salem that kind of incubated out of Salem State was the Young Entrepreneurs of the North Shore. And, and there are other small networking groups similar to that. I think for a while Cumming Center was even having networking opportunities. So you can go onto like LinkedIn, you can go on to, you can start to do searches online to find these different opportunities. But then separately, a lot of the mortgage brokers are starting to do their little like happy hour, just, I say keep a very open mind and don't think of it as like, you're wasting my time, you just want to try to sell me something. You never know when you meet that one person, who could open you up to a ton of referrals potentially. So just be open-minded and, in the networking realm. Creatively, so I do a lot of business with one particular mortgage company, and he's an amazing networker. He has completely built his business on being interested in everyone else's business, and now he's starting to, really reap the rewards of having helped others grow their business. And so what he's been doing is he'll take these niche ideas, like one of them was, I was invited to because I'm an attorney, but I don't practice. So it was a group focused around those who are attorneys but have a different business. And he got us all together, and it was amazing. There were like 30, 40 of us. Another one I've gone to is through like Salem State alumni associations. So just putting yourself in touch with people that you already have some basic level connection with. Yep, and then really getting to know people. Joan in our office here has these amazing, she puts on these amazing presentations that she puts on meetups. And she solicits, what she does is she partners with a vendor who can offer something to someone. Like they did one on your dating profile and how to create like your best online dating profile. And she sponsored it, and they got all these people to come in, and then she started following up with these people, and she's gotten some business from it. So it's like it's about getting yourself in front of as many possible people, and I believe with some regularity and consistency, it's easier to grow the relationships if it's like constant networking where you really get to know them rather than, oh, I met you, now I move on to you, now I move on to you. So keeping some consistency with it. And so those were just some, outside creative networking ideas. You could do first-time buyer classes, or, if you have a particular specialty, or again, want to partner with a vendor that has some other type of value add, it's a good way just to meet additional people that you didn't previously know. And I think it's also really valuable to leverage yourself in networking. If you have a relationship with a vendor, an attorney, a mortgage broker, a contractor, and they know someone that you want to know, ask them out to lunch and ask that they invite the person that you want to know. Do you mind silencing that?
I did.
Sorry.
I don't know why it's turn the volume off, but.
So don't be afraid to put yourself out there to ask. Ask people who they may know that you would want to know to again further expand the outreach of your networking. All right. So where are we at so far? What's everyone's questions or thoughts or?
What do you think about LinkedIn?
As a tool, what do I think about LinkedIn? LinkedIn. I'll repeat the question. As a tool for networking.
Right.
I know what I do, which is when I get a message, I usually gloss it over real quick and delete it.
Yeah.
I think that if you can be individualized enough, engaging, and personal to a specific person or a small group of people as the initial introduction, but then follow up in some fashion, that's probably a good way to at least start meeting people.
I mean, I've used it to correspond and, hook up with a couple people for coffee or whatever when they're in there. But I mean, you hear that that's supposed to be the big business to business.
Yeah.
And I don't see, like, what am I missing? Because I don't see that.
I think it's starting to take shape in the business to business, but it's kind of almost like, for me, it's like with Facebook, I'm not really necessarily getting anybody new, but I'm keeping in touch with the people who I'm already friends with, doing business with. Maybe it will start to roll out and become, but again, I think you can use it for like an initial introduction or to search out people and try to get yourself in front of them. But even with technology, I don't think there's any way we're ever going to replace, the face-to-face and the follow-up. And I still tend to be very old-fashioned when it comes to like pen and paper, sending notes, calling, and so forth. But LinkedIn is a good way to find out like who you know, and then branch out from there. Use it as a tool. Robin?
So when you connect with maybe say a contractor, I had sent out, I belong to BFit, CrossFit and Peabody, and there's 98 members that go there, so it's a community. I tried to encourage the owners to put like a community bulletin board together so everybody can kind of see what each other do and maybe help each other out in our community, and that just hasn't taken off. So I took the liberty of taking everybody's email and sent out an email introducing myself as, you know me as we work out together, but this is what I do, and if anybody else has any other business or service, I'd be happy to refer you to my client, that whole thing. So I got a contractor, he's a painter who's trying to grow his business as well, he's in Boxford, that reached out to me, and we're having breakfast on Saturday morning, but I'm not sure exactly how to use that to for both of us to our advantage.
To your advantage, the actual meeting.
Right.
Okay, we'll go into that definitely. I'll give you some ideas.
Okay.
Don't ask them to set up a community board. Ask to sponsor the community board, and you have it put up.
Okay,
And that way, because they're probably busy, they're trying to grow their business.
Exactly.
They don't want to put your board up, but if you pay and you put it up.
okay,
So approach it that way and say,
Okay.
can I sponsor the community board and I'll have it installed? And then it's done and
right,
all you need is their permission.
Okay.
So, good way of going about it.
okay.
Anybody else, any questions or any points of discussion, something I don't know.
Just on that, I think that's a very good idea, her approach, but, for example, if I were to go to the Y in Marblehead and ask that, I don't think that they would be
Yes.
as,
Completely,
they don't, they
completely different.
don't, they don't
yeah.
want people promoting their
Right,
own
no,
stuff there.
completely different. And that's why we were saying find out what works for you. So with
Yeah.
CrossFit, it tends to be more community oriented, and that's a perfect place for it. But yeah, you're not going to go into a larger organization and put up a community
Yeah.
board.
Yeah, there's probably 10 relatives that belong to that one.
yeah,
Where I'm the
exactly.
only one over in our
Exactly.
community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just more tight knit with CrossFit.
Right.
Anyway. All right, so like anything, if it's not in your schedule, you're not doing it. So you have to make time for networking. And if you make time for networking, then you're like, oh, I have nothing to do. Force yourself to do something within that time slot. So for me, my networking was very different before I had my daughter. It was a lot of being out at night, being out at events. I could stay out, didn't matter. Now it's very different. So I put a sample of, so literally this is what I'm doing on a weekly basis. Monday I'm having either coffee in the morning or lunch at noon. And I do cycle through a lot of the same people. Those, I take usually my largest referral sources or people who have introduced me to the most people. And I rotate them through my schedule very consistently. I'm meeting them maybe twice a month, at least once a month. So you can't gloss over people, if they're now being courted by someone else, they're not in your, you're not top of mind for them anymore. So do not let go of the people who you've already been networking with and it's been very successful for you. But then start to shift in, and you can add far more lunches, far more coffees, far more drinks than I have here. This is just what works for me. So it's usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday, a breakfast or a lunch, or sometimes both if I can. And again, it's either, a preferred vendor, somebody you have just met and you want to further the conversation, or somebody that you want to be introduced to, you call them up, ask them out. On Tuesday mornings, I do belong to BNI, Business Networking International, which is a paid group specific to generate business. It's to pass referrals. And the largest thing that I learned with that particular organization is I went into it not to get business for myself, but to first help other people grow their business and for people to get to know me. And taking that mindset and that approach has brought back a lot of business to me through that organization. So it's 7 to 8:30 a.m. every single Tuesday. And then I take advantage of meeting with one person for a follow-up one-to-one afterward. Yes.
And Sarah, that's only one realtor per
Correct.
group, right?
Yep, it's an exclusive group. So if you occupy the seat for your occupation, you're it.
So you're the only realtor.
Correct. Yep, but they're scattered all over the North Shore, Cape Ann. There's
They're
plenty
all
of opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in our BNI, at one point they split listing and buying. Oh yeah, there have actually been BNI chapters that have sort of folded and transitioned into their own networking chapter. So you could follow that very similar format and have your own if you want. Wednesday, same thing, breakfast or lunch or both. On Thursdays, I'm a member of the Beverly Rotary Club. From noon to 1:30, I'm there. And then I'd say probably one time per week I do attend like an awards event, the North Shore Red Cross, whatever, something. Maybe not every week, but I'll try to make myself available to go to one evening event to socialize, network, and so forth. And then same thing on Friday, coffee or lunch or both. And so, it's like I said, you have to eat. You can be productive when you're eating and, meet someone. So it's a good, but in any event, whether you do it one time per week, 20 times per week, 1 hour a week, 20 hours a week, you have to make it part of your schedule or you're just not going to get it done. And it will sort of force you to figure out who you do want to meet with, and so forth. Any questions? Yes.
Just a comment, I think a lot of people going into networking, they think in the group, okay, and they expect results quickly. But in reality, when you're in a network, like Chamber of Commerce or any group, it takes time. It's even up to a year, because people need to get to know you, your business, how you work, and so some go in and out of it rather than
Yeah.
sticking with it.
I was sharing that with Chris at Rotary today that, you know, I was a member for 2 to 3 years, and I was relatively on a younger scale for my club. And it wasn't until people really got to know me and started to see how my business was flourishing that then I think they felt, you know, yeah, trust and so forth. And I mean, some venues like Rotary, that's not the primary purpose either. Of course, it happens by nature when you're with the same people, you know, 52 weeks, 52 days out of the year, constantly, repetitively seeing them. So eventually that's going to happen where you build the relationship and so forth. And I think with Rotary it's nice too because there's a lot of outside socializing that goes on either through community projects or events and so forth. But yeah, there is definitely a ramp-up period. You know, in BNI, they set the expectation that you can, you know, you may not receive anything within the first year. And I think people think, well, I signed up, I wrote the check, I showed up once, bring it to me. And it's like, no, it doesn't have, you have to be so proactive. You have to put yourself out there. You have to, you know, meet with people and, you know, on an individual basis or in the networking events. And eventually you start to, you know, just kind of brand yourself. People start to know you and appreciate you. So that's the next piece is be interested, not interesting. Of course, people want to talk to interesting people, but if you know, walk up, shake hands, here's my business card, and this is what I can do, and you know, if you know anybody that's looking to buy or sell a house, like send them to me, blah 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 blah. They're going to be so put off by that behavior versus, okay, I'm Sarah MacBurnie, you know, I'd love to hear what you do. And let them talk. You know, people are really drawn to people, I think, with regard to anything, not even just networking, if you show genuine interest in them and learning about them. Yeah, so don't go in prepared to dominate the conversation and give your spiel. And I think it also, too, will, like, it's less nerve-wracking when you're just like, okay, I'm just ready to hear from other people. Of course, you introduce yourself, tell them what you do, pass business cards if that's what's going on. But, you know, just show some genuine interest in what is their type of business? How long have they been doing it? You know, do they have a specialty? Do they have a family? I mean, you know, it doesn't even have to be just about business. The sooner, just like when you're trying to capture your clients, the sooner that you can engage that person, find that common bond, put them at ease with you, the more they're going to want to open up to you and maybe have that follow-up meeting too. So I think some people get short-sighted and have this, like, you know, like the speed dating, speed networking agenda in mind, and you'd be better off having a true, real conversation with one person in the evening that you actually make a connection with versus like, well, I handed out 50 business cards, you know what I mean? So I think that that's a big piece of it is to show interest in them first and then wait for them to, you know, engage you about yourself. Any questions? Conversation. I'm not feeling the energy today. All right, so moving on. So on that same token, when you're, and the be interested, not interesting, it could be in a larger format, it could be in a one-to-one type format. In preparing to be, in preparing to be interested and to be engaging with someone, I think you need to dress the part for whatever it is. You know, if it's an evening cocktail hour or something, you know, you may dress up a little bit more, but just kind of know your audience in advance. Some of the like put together networking events will say, you know, business casual or casual. So that'd be the first thing, you know, have your appearance ready, check your attitude at the door, have your energy, you know, out. You know, if you're like walking around, no one's gonna come up and talk to you. But you know, if you put yourself out there, if you smile, if you make eye contact with people, They're gonna want to come up to you because you're far more approachable than if you're like, in the corner. So that's the second thing. Definitely have your business cards on you. I cannot tell you how many times I've been like, oh, I'd love to like email you. Yeah, so, oh, I forgot, Make sure they're in your purse, make sure they're in your wallet or in your pocket, somewhere readily accessible. You could even, if it's a networking event where they give you like the name badges, sometimes you can even stick the business cards in behind and just have them ready there. But yeah, so have business cards for sure. And then the other thing that I suggest, and this is very handy when you're having like an individual one-to-one kind of get to know you breakfast or lunch, but you can use this in any networking event as well, as long as you can hear the people. Have some like interesting questions. Instead of being like, what do you do? What I was suggesting you do earlier, you could shift it up, and you could ask a question like, what's been your most challenging business problem or client, or who's your ideal client? What's the most, if it's a contractor, what's the most interesting job site you've ever had? Something that kind of breaks the mold. Again, you're trying to get yourself to stand out, to be very personable, and to be memorable, really. Like, it's so hard. We're in this business, there are so many mortgage brokers, and it's like, it's taken a lot for particular mortgage brokers to be memorable to me, because they all, you all get the calls, they all have the same. I'm not knocking mortgage brokers because this is being recorded, but we do the same thing. It's like everybody knows a realtor, so okay, so what sets you apart?
Hear that when we make cold calls.
Yeah. I can put you on
Keller
the
Williams
MLS
again.
Yeah. I can put a sign up, but the same is true probably for any industry. So you really have to do something that stands out. I'm not saying be crazy, but if you go at it with like a nice set of questions that you're going to ask that not everyone else is asking, that's a good way to, strike a good conversation and carry the conversation through. And again, show that you're very interested. Be prepared in the sense to remember to get their information. You could have this amazing conversation, and potentially, you just Google who they are if you have a good memory and can remember what their name was or where they worked. But make sure you take that step to say, I'd like to follow up with you maybe sometime. Could I get your card? And then that's where the follow-up comes in. So I have Sarah enter any like vendor cards. Anybody that I meet that I've had a personal, even if it was a very brief interaction, but so long as I've had an interaction with them, then, we add them to a vendor list. And I will include them on certain emails that we do, real estate related. I will generally try to find them on LinkedIn. Again, dependent upon the level of communication and the rapport, maybe find them on Facebook. There's no quicker and easier way to get to know someone entirely than on Facebook without actually being in their presence. So I say use it to your advantage, like I add everyone to Facebook. So keep their contact information. I would say, again, if it was somebody that you really want to get to know better, that you really had a good rapport with, and you could see yourself maybe giving them referrals, or they could give you referrals, or even if you just want to see if that could build to that level, then they would be, your lunch for the following week. I had a great time, like to get to know you a little bit better, learn more about your business. Let's set up, a one-to-one and let them, dictate if it's breakfast or lunch or whatever. And then again, when you start to have these relationships work for you, don't cycle people out of, there comes a point where it can get a little tricky. So what I've tried to do is two separate vendors, two separate industries, but I could, I end up like with people who have similar personalities to me, or, similar personalities that I like, and that's who I work with. So I'll be like, oh, you should meet so-and-so. And so now I'm taking two of them to lunch. And not only am I getting the benefit of putting myself in front of them, I'm now making an introduction for them. And that keeps me top of mind, because they're like, oh, hey, she's trying to help me grow too. And there's nothing to say it couldn't be with like a handful of people. You all sit down together for coffee, or, a little mini networking breakfast meeting or something. So just, keep the opportunities open. Don't be closed-minded. And just constantly be who said it? Jim Rohn said, you can have everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want, or something like that. And it's true, as soon as you shift your mindset to be less about you, because, that can come across really poorly, but you're genuinely interested in the other person and potentially helping them, and it could be in some other fashion. It doesn't even necessarily have to be like, well, I will have referrals for you. This is how I approach it with the mortgage brokers. I appreciate that, you're calling me. I have people who I'm loyal to, and that's because they feed my business. However, I like having, relationships in the industry. Is there someone I can introduce you to that would help you? I know a lot of people. I know a lot of realtors. I know a lot of accountants. I know a lot of whatever. And so I'm always willing to go out on a limb to say, while I don't think I can do this for you, let me see if I can do something else for you. Or helping somebody with their social media. That was actually how one of the mortgage brokers broke through my shield, because I was like, stop calling me, I'm not going to talk to you. And he went out on a limb and he said, I'd like to make a video about you, and these are the topics I want to discuss. Would you be up for it? And my high eye was like, raised her hand and said, sure, come and video me, that's great. And then we've had a good connection ever since, and he's stayed very persistent, and now he's starting to get referrals from me. Because you can't always just give your business to one person either. You kind of need to keep multiple relationships because there's personality differences.
Do you get referrals from people?
He has tried to pass a couple things to me. Yeah. It's not like the strongest bond in terms of the referral piece, but in terms of the relationship, and that we both kind of have each other's back and want to see each other do well. But again, instead of being like, I already have a mortgage broker, which I do. Trying to be open-minded to say, how can I make this work? How can this be mutually beneficial? And so that's what I'll say to anybody else, that calls. Like, I don't think I can help you with this, but I'll help you with something else. Because same thing with your clients. If you sometimes go out a little bit on a limb for them, they'll be your biggest, raving fan. And even though it may not have, just a little time, a little effort, a little creative thinking will go a long way. Anything else? Yes.
Question, maybe off the subject a little bit. When you're at these events, you're mingling with a lot of people. I'm terrible at remembering names.
Sure.
Do you have a secret that you do?
I'm horrible with names too.
Do you not remember them either?
I'm horrible with names too. I try and make a concerted effort to commit. I think always if you can associate it with something, like right away, that's the easiest way. If you knew somebody with that name. But you end up meeting so many people, and I'm sure they're going through the exact same thing. The one thing that I'll say, because somebody was talking to me about this earlier, and they were like, well, do you not drink? And I'm like, no, I drink when I go out networking. It's like, you have to be true to yourself. You can be responsible, and a little more polished for the evening, but even with my clients, I'm all about, like, we're all real, we're all human, no fakeness, and I think the more you embrace that and the more you put that out there, people realize how real you are, and they'll go further than being fake. So, yes.
I was, this was about 20 years ago, so I've been in the business a couple of years, but not too long. And I got really embarrassed when I had gone someplace and didn't remember somebody's name. And it just really bothered me. It was a really stupid business kind of opportunity that I felt that I blew. So the next day, at the office meeting, or something came up that there was an advertisement there about a memory course to take. It was like $250, so it wasn't that cheap. It was for one day. Well, don't you know, I immediately enrolled because that was still with me.
Yeah.
And the only thing I got out of that course was that to try to remember something really stupid about, for example, let's say the person's name is Ernie. And then instead of remembering it, try to think about the guy with an elephant on his head or something.
E.
Yeah. But
the
something
association.
really outlandish.
Yep.
it's the total opposite
Yeah.
of what you would think of
Yeah.
doing. I mean, so it's not something I put into practice, but
That's funny. No,
that was
the
the $250.
quick and easy for forgetting the name is usually to grab somebody you do know and say, hey, I want to introduce you to Dan. And then usually the person will then introduce themselves. But if they don't, then I would just like fess up and be like, I'm so sorry, I forgot your name. You know, you don't like, because they know at that point, like, you're not fooling anyone by pretending.
The person living with your husband, and he can't remember their name.
Yeah. Yep. One thing that I kind of glossed over that I meant to cover when Sarah brought up Cub Scouts and so forth, in terms of finding what works for you and those niche marketing ideas, I found like very quickly when my daughter was born, some of these like Facebook or like the hospital groups where you'd get together with other mothers and, you know, talk about your like nursing problems or whatever, sleep problems and stuff. So, you know, if you have something that's a part of your life that you can kind of incorporate, that's where you'd go to Cub Scouts or you'd go to the mommies group or you'd go to the lacrosse, whatever, you know, and you just let it be known what you do, and then you just really build the relationships and occasionally remind people what you do. You know, you don't actively pursue people or pursue business, but sort of passively make sure they remember what it is that you do. So that's a good, you know, finding something that's really like near and dear and close to your life and using that as a venue for networking can be huge too. I kind of glossed over that one. All right, that's all I got unless people want to chat it up or have any other questions. I thought I had so much more to talk about.
All good stuff. Thank you,
You're
Sarah.
welcome.
I think what you said about being yourself is so important. I've had people say to me, oh, you have a lot of contacts from your church. What church do you go to? I think I should go too. No, I don't go to the church to get the contacts.
Right.
You have to go, you have to do the things you like to do.
Yes.
I mean, I can ride a bike, so I can meet Tom's biking buddies,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, you have to.
Yeah,
It
that's
has to
it
be
has
what
to
you
be
do. It has
for
to be
you,
you.
or else it won't work.
Because it would be so fun.
Yeah.
Like on Facebook and on LinkedIn, you know, guys get these invites, people are constantly inviting people you don't know from different areas because it's, you know, the person you know, the person you know. Does it pay to include multi-generational, in other words, your children have Facebook accounts? Is it too soon to befriend your children's friends who are maybe now graduating from college and will start getting married soon?
I think that's a smart idea. So long as you're friends with them, so long as you're not like, you know.
Obviously you know them.
Yes, exactly. I think that's brilliant.
Or is it something?
Because you'll be ground level to get them when they're getting married and getting their first house and all that stuff. I think that's brilliant. That's actually, what you said is a little interesting too. So I've even removed, you know, like you feel like you get into the particular, like for me, Beverly networking circuit, and it is the same people. Even at the different groups, it's the same people. So at one point I started going to them like in Framingham or, you know, wherever. And I kept the open mind to think, well, you know, somebody may know someone who lives in this area or is moving to this area, or worst case, if I build the relationship, but their people are down in that area, I can just refer them to someone else. So, you know, for a little short period of time, it was like I needed to get out of that constant, like, you know, cycle, go somewhere else, meet some new people. And it worked out just fine. I have a couple people I still stay in contact with. So again, just being, if that's what you're trying to do is really grow and meet a lot of people, then just being really, really open-minded.
So maximizing networking, how much networking is social networking for you? I mean, you're talking about actually meeting people,
Right.
which
Right.
I agree that that's, I think, always better if you can. But, I mean, social networking, driving people to your website, social networking, using
Yeah.
videos and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that
It's a huge piece. Yeah. Facebook is, I would say, but again, it's like I'm Facebooking with all these people that I met through networking, or that, you know, I've already known.
Okay.
But for me, just because
So your
of
Mets, you're
me.
using your Mets and then building relationships through the social networking, as
Yes.
opposed to using the social networking to drop you
Yeah,
down.
I now am getting people who like me, who I'm like, I don't know who that is. Obviously, they saw me through someone, you know, someone like commenting or liking or something.
Okay.
But it's mostly all people that I know. It's a very small percentage of people outside who I don't know. Pinterest will jump that up real quick. If you put your listings on Pinterest, I try to do pin boards for all my listings.
Okay.
That's how you get a lot of outside people very quickly.
Okay.
Because they just start reposting your stuff, and then other people post
So
you.
do you use Facebook to post listings?
Yes. So the general rule of thumb with that, with social media, is first of all, it should be being interactive in the sense that you do something to other people's posts 10 times before you do one of your own. So I'll go on, I'll like picture, and I'm not just doing this willy-nilly, like I'm genuinely, it's just part of my life now. You know, commenting, liking, and whatnot. And then I've kind of gotten away from it. Like I do post all my new listings with videos, and we'll post sold photos. But then in terms of overall content, I'm trying to do, you know, at least a ratio of say 5 to 7 personal to every 1 real estate post. So again, it's like people are knowing me, people are seeing my daughter, and I do real estate. It should, you know, it shouldn't just be, sometimes I get a little more heavy-handed with the real estate stuff, but that's when we're busy.
And you like Pinterest?
I like Pinterest, yeah.
Pinterest
Yeah.
for,
Yeah. I say you can't go wrong with, so my big thing has been Facebook. We are now doing a ton with YouTube, which if you haven't seen my new one, you should go on my channel, it's really fun. Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, but Twitter only because YouTube posts to it. I'm not like a tweet. I don't get that stuff. And Pinterest. Maybe
Now,
Google
is
Plus now and
Is
again.
this a separate Facebook account, you know, the personal and the business one?
So I wavered on that for a while. I always just had my personal.
Yeah.
And I had taught a couple classes and said, you just need your personal account. If your clients can't know you personally, they're not just going to go to your business page to be like, oh, look at what she's doing. You know, people are interested in people. So, but then I went back on what I thought, and I added the business page, and I have it, and it has good likes, and we kind of cross-promote between the personal and the business. But, like, I don't necessarily think I needed the business page at this point. I don't know. Arguments can be made both ways, I'm sure. But because I really genuinely, like, stay in touch with people, you know, as if they are my true friends and not just clients. So I guess it's good to have it, you know, so people can like it and they don't have to see your personal stuff, but at least whatever works for you. Would make the most sense.
What about driving people to your website? Has that been something that you've
So
had success with?
we just got a little more like cognizant about it. So like when I had my sign riders done, I had them done with the website, you know, it's at the bottom of every email. We say the website in the videos now, and we say my cell phone too. So it's not like, I'm not doing like Google searches or any of this like advertising and stuff to drive it, but it's like before I probably wasn't even putting the web address out there enough. So now it's on everything, which I suppose it should be anyway. But we're just, you know, a little more actively making sure it's on everything.
Do you do any blogging or anything like that?
No, I really want to, but I haven't. It's like,
It's
it's funny, it's like there's, you know, if you talked to me 2 years ago, there was like none of this going on, and it was slowly this one thing got added, and then this one thing got added. That's probably the next thing. Yeah, I will, at some point.
I would just say that Rich is doing a great job of blogging, but you got to be an expert at 1 or 2 things to really do a blog, and you have the opportunity, like Sarah's doing now, to go ahead and utilize that social media sphere to drive traffic back to your website, the place where you live. Having a blog is kind of becoming passe if you're not focused on a specific vertical or stream of influence. You know, like Rich is focused on some, Rich has got a great blog on, but you've got to go ahead and kind of hone in on a specific niche or a specific avenue.
Who's your blog, Rich?
Homely ideas.
Homely Ideas?
Cute, yeah. I like it. Yeah, my thought, I need to be reined in half the time because I'm just like the big creative thinker. Is I was thinking like not even doing a real estate blog. I wanted to do like a restaurant review local type one, but have it be known that I was a realtor. But then I have like writer's block, so.
So now back to B&I, like maybe creating your own little.
Yeah.
Like if you, well, I'm gonna use for example, Jubilee Yacht Club that I'm a member of. Could I
Do the Jubilee.
reach out to Jubilee
Yacht
community
networking.
and ask other business folks to put together a group of business?
You can ask anything you want.
Okay.
Yeah,
so that would be,
I would just say like, yeah, try to get, you know, a unique group with some type of common bond. Personal invite is best if possible. But go
okay,
for
as
it.
opposed to just putting out an email.
Yeah, because the usually the results aren't going to be as good as if it were, you know.
Okay.
Sometimes even with the personal invite, it's not huge. Because again, everyone thinks you're just trying to sell them something. So that's
Right.
why it's like to break it down to the most simple of interaction and introduction is the best.
Mhm.
But then, you know, branch out from there.
What about, like a newsletter? Are you doing newsletters or anything?
No, we have like email blasts to like my sphere and stuff like that. And you know, I do an annual client appreciation party.
Yeah.
And one thing with that is I invite people who aren't my clients, but I want them to be my clients and my clients. So it's like another touch to somebody that maybe, you know they're going to be listing in the near future. And you already treat them as if they already are your client. It's a good way to make people feel good. And you invite the orphaned clients of co-broke deals, and you'd be amazed how many show up. Oh, that's so cool! You invited me. I didn't hear from my
Other
agent, and I really liked you, so I'm glad you invited me.
Well, there you go. Win them over.
So, yeah. So I always just think creatively.
You know, that's like the website thing, that's like, I guess it's key, you know, driving people to the website, but that's not happening. I'm doing all the other stuff, but it's just not getting to my website.
I mean, it's not like I get breeze and traffic, you know. I think, yeah, I'm not like a super huge techie computer. I'm actually pretty primitive when it comes to that stuff, and a little old-fashioned. I recognize I need it. You know, I'm having people help me that know better than I do. And I know that, you know, you could go on to the podcasts or whatever they are with Keller Williams and pick up some of Ben Kinney out of California, and he's huge with like organic SEO and creative YouTube use and creative online presence. But it's like, you know, for me, I'm at the point where like, okay, I started ground level, I started basic, I started, you know, very simple. Built it up to be good, added one more thing, built it up to be good. It's like each piece starts to add on to the whole picture. I'm sure you could, you know, get a web guru and either do organic SEO or paid SEO and get the traffic, but I still think that's only one piece, you know?
Yeah, I mean, they all seem like there's one piece, but it's all these pieces lumped together.
But yeah, I don't know.
I don't think so much traffic coming to your website either results that much either in business.
True.
Because they don't always give you a phone number.
I get lots of leads to my site.
Me too.
We
But following
convert
up
very
on them
few. We
doesn't-
convert very
Exactly.
few.
Yeah.
Very few. So yeah, so even with that, it's like, okay. Again, I think it's like nice to have a presence, nice for people to see who you are, give them one more glance into you and your business, but maybe not like the end all be all. I think you're much better off just knowing people in person, and that will go so much further. You know?
And what do you think about knocking on people? Just
I don't do
you're
it.
not good at it? I mean, you're not.
I've never even done it. I'm
You've
not
never-
doing it.
No.
No way.
You what?
knock on people's doors?
Oh, really?
No way!
You have to do, for me, I have to do it for a reason. If I have an open house,
Oh,
I
then
can
you'll go
walk
and let
the
people
whole
know.
neighborhood
Well, see, that's
with that
perfect.
card, tell them I have an open house, and meet them. But I can't just knock from that.
No, I think door knocking is great. Like, I just don't do it because I just don't. I can't do it. I don't know why. It's not in my nature.
If you think it's in your personality to do it, talk to Tom.
Yes, he's very good. Yep. Yep.
But
No, I think it's super beneficial, and again, it's like it's an effective way, you know, to put yourself in front of people
Right.
right away.
You don't even know that you exist.
Yeah. And so I think it's very smart. It's not part of my particular business plan. That could change at any given moment.
I wanted to run this by you because I
Yeah.
put this letter together basically to my neighbors and was going to do. I did some a little bit back in November, but then of course with the winter and everything, it's almost impossible
Yeah.
to do it. So I was going to get back out there now, and that being my reason was just pretty much introducing myself as one of my neighbors. And
Yeah.
letters.
Yeah. I'll want to review it with you
Yeah.
offline.
Yeah.
Right. Anybody have any other questions, and we can just wrap up?
no, but I'd like to hear it.
Okay. Yeah. If anybody wants to, we can.
I want constructive criticism too.
All right. So I don't know how to turn this off, but.
You want me to read it out loud? Or?